Hello guys, I hope you're well today. So today we're looking at structure. So when we think about structure, what are we actually thinking about? So we've got here the picture of a house, and there are certain things in this house that are needed to make the structure work. So can you think of what those things might be, and can you put the answers in the chat, please? Okay, brilliant. Floor, that's a good start. What else do we have? Yep, we got the roof, beams, windows, we've got a rail. Excellent. All of these things make up the structure of this house, and they mean that it can stand on its own. So now we're thinking about this in terms of a text, and specifically in terms of a non-fiction text. What do I mean when I say non-fiction? Brilliant. Yes. Okay, so non-fiction is when it is true. It's not a story. And we've looked at different types of non-fiction texts already. So let's have a quick revision of these techniques. So if you can log on to your account and you're going to have a go at matching. So we've looked at these terms before, and all of these things count as structure. So let's have a look what we've got. So we've got quotation and speech, which I think could be, yes, well done. We've got repetition when words or phrases, oh, good, okay. What else have we got here? Changes in ideas and perspectives. What could that be? What do we think that might be? Oh. No, not a shift. Okay. Events range by time. Cause and effect. No. Okay. Information relating to a topic. Okay, well done. Have we got chronological order? Arranged by time. Good. Okay. Sequential order. Let's have a look. Steps in a specific sequence. Do we think it's that one? So we click on there. Oh, and we come down. Well done. Explaining reasons and results. You guys are much better at this than I am. So cause and effect. Okay. Analysing similarities and differences. Okay, excellent work, you guys. Let's go back to where we're at in our PowerPoint. So we're going to look at a headline from an article that came out this weekend. Okay, so we've got an image here. Does anybody recognize the person in the image? So this guy here, does anyone recognize him? Okay, yeah, you're right. Colin Farrell. And he is famous for what? What does he do? Oh. What does Colin Farrell, what is he famous for? Okay, so we've got Colin Farrell and he's pushing somebody in a wheelchair and then there's lots of people around. What do you think the headline for this might be? So let's have some ideas. Lovely, well done. So you've noticed that it says Emma on his top and the number 40. Good. Okay, you've noticed that she's missing a leg. Yeah. Where do you think this might be happening? London? Okay. America? Okay, interesting. Okay, well those are some really good ideas for headlines. This is actually the headline that came up, and that is Colin Farrell finishes Dublin Marathon, so no one got a Dublin, while pushing friend in a wheelchair. What do you think about that as a headline? So we've already considered headlines before, and these are some of the questions that we looked at when we considered them. Is it emotive? Often a headline will use alliteration. Big question. Will you remember this tomorrow? You don't think so? You think that your headline is better? Well, maybe. Okay. So we were considering structure. So for that to be something that we're going to look at, let's look at some parts of this article. So, Fogarty, who is an ambassador for Deborah, has layers of bandages over 80% of her body to prevent wound infection. Oof. Also speaking to PA, Fogarty said, "This was a dream come true for me, and I want to thank Colin, who has been the most supportive, generous, loyal friend I could wish for." Crowds roared their support as the Oscar-nominated actor, who is currently starring in the HBO miniseries The Penguin, met up with his friend in the late stage of the run on Sunday afternoon. The 48-year-old star ran the 2.5 miles, 4 kilometres, of the 26-mile race while pushing his friend Emma Fogarty, who lives with a rare skin condition, across the finish line. Okay, so first thing to consider, what do you think out of these 4 things would be the first thing, the most important piece of information before we read on? What would be the first? Okay, so why do you think that? Why do you think that it is number 3, James? Yep, you can put your microphone on. Okay, so a bit of description before we begin. Does anybody disagree? Anyone agree? What do we think? Yes, Catherine? Yeah, I would agree. It can't be 2 because it starts with also. That's a good point that you've just recognised. Well done. Okay, well, the majority of you are saying number 4. The 48-year-old star ran the final 4 kilometres, and I would say that that is correct. And that is correct because it's giving you an outline of what the rest of the article is going to be about. Before we move on, is there anything you notice about the other pieces of information? Does anyone notice any techniques here? You're on fire today, James. Yes, there's a statistic. 80% of her body. Great, we've got a direct quotation. This was a dream come true for me. Lovely. And yes, emotive language when we've got the rare skin condition. Okay, excellent. Now, what information is missing from this? Okay, so let's just go back to the information that they gave us. So, sorry, I'm just going to have to go back. What do you want to know? What do you want to know that isn't being told to you here? So if you just were given this information, what would be left out? That's what I want you to think about. What questions does this bring up for you? Because this isn't the whole of the article. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to come up with some questions that you would like to know about this. And you're going to report back. So you can choose in your breakout rooms who is going to be the reporter. And let's try and have somebody different this time so it's not always the same. Okay. Brilliant. So, some really good ideas. So you want to know more about why he's doing it. You want to know more about the relationship between the two people. And you want to know how much money was made. So really good points you were making, especially about the fact that there was a clear introduction but not a conclusion, which is very much about the structure. Let's have a look at this text together. Okay, so the text is, you have the text in your files, so let's have a read together. In fact, who would like to read? I know that some of you are amazing readers. Let's have a look. Who would like to read? Okay, now we're going to read it, but at the same time as reading it, we're going to see if we can spot any of the devices that we've looked at over the last few weeks. Okay. Some lovely reading there. And can we put some of those devices in the chat, please? Excellent. Okay, so coming back to where we are, which is, where are we? We are, so we've read the text together. You've highlighted some of the techniques, and I think we agreed that one of the main techniques used here is emotive language, and that was done really effectively. You also highlighted the use of quotations, you also highlighted the fact that the pace changed, and also the perspective in terms of the dialogue used. So amazing! Now, coming back to this question, why is the structure of a text so important? Why is the structure of a text so important? Has anyone got any ideas about that? Yes, that's really good. As we saw at the very beginning, when we looked at it all mixed up here, it doesn't really make any sense. If you start off with Fogarty, who is an ambassador for Deborah, has layers of bandages over 80% of her body to prevent wound infection. Very, very interesting, and also sad, and also uses a statistic, but it isn't very clear, is it? The fact that number 2 says also, it must be talking about other information. So if you started with that, it would just be confusing. And then if you're going to read a text, you want to know what it is you're reading about. Now, the other thing that I thought was really interesting was the fact that you didn't like the headline. And that is totally and utterly a personal choice. And I think coming back to that idea of memory, what is the purpose of a headline? The purpose of a headline is to make you want to read on. The purpose of a headline is that tomorrow you're going to wake up and you're going to remember that headline. And most of you have agreed that this headline is very, very forgettable. And I would say that some of you came up with better headlines than that. So how would we consolidate that question? How would we? Why is the structure of a text important? So let's just have some answers now. Why is the structure of a text so important? And let's go to the chat. Okay, excellent. Some brilliant ideas. So without it having a clear structure, you're not going to want to read on. It can impact you in terms of the emotions that you feel. How does this make you feel, this article? Could you put some emojis in the chat? Amazing. Yes, it can take you on a journey depending on how it is structured. Okay. So with that in mind, we're going to look at another text, which is one that we're going to analyze a little bit more in detail. And I want you to have a think about the way in which structure is used in that text. Okay, let's continue.